closing tabs. There we go. Hey, everybody, how's it going? Oh, someone had nice New York traffic in the background. This is Trevor. This is Champagne Sharks. We have Amanda with us. I like
Hey,
what's going on with your shirt.
thank
What is?
you.
Oh, very
Um,
cool.
yeah, this is just a shirt my friend gave me a few years ago. I think it might be vintage, I'm not sure.
Okay. I can never wear vintage clothes because it's like the old school extra large is like a today medium. Like it
I
never.
know they're like so much smaller. People were so much smaller back then. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me feel horrible when I go to vintage. But yeah, we want to talk about, I mean, it's funny. We had a bunch of stuff last time. For people who saw last time, we were talking about Chinese propaganda. Then the GameStop thing happened. So that's another reason to blame China for a bunch of stuff. But so
I haven't like seen anyone try to blame the GameStop stuff on China. Has that actually happened?
some of that happened. Unfortunately, I forgot to take it down. But then one of the few places that you could trade GameStop was Webull, a Chinese version of
Oh.
like a Chinese version of like Robin Hood that actually lets you, you know, keep doing stuff. So then people use that as an example. Oh, look, they're uh they're allowing they're trying to subvert American capitalism by letting people
Every day I log on and there's like some new creative way to blame China. Like today I saw it was like either a Newsweek or a Time article blaming China for stoking US racial tensions.
yeah.
And so in this article, it blamed China for politicizing the Black Lives Matter protests from over the summer and using it as and siding with the protesters and using it as a way to make the US look bad on the global stage. And it was also blaming China for like stoking the US Capitol riots too from a few weeks ago. And it was making the claim that if Biden appointed like a more diverse like administration, then it like somehow could like solve this issue of China like stoking racial tensions. It was a really ridiculous article, and the headline, I have it in the links, but the headline was
Yeah,
really
I
funny
actually
because
have it.
it just
Actually have it. Sorry, I actually have it ready to go up. So I'll just put it up right now. I actually
yeah.
have it on my screen. But yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, see
How a
how
diverse.
how a diverse Joe Biden administration can counter China's stoking of U.S. Racial tensions. It's just like it reads like a bot wrote
And some,
this, put
something
out
I
by a bot.
noticed they do a lot. A lot of these things. This is by a guy called John Feng. I don't know anything
Mhm.
about John Feng, but I noticed they do with the Chinese stuff what they do a lot of the times with black stuff, where they get somebody who's clearly like, their job is, hey, you've got to say the stuff we can't say because, or we're gonna look
Yeah,
racist. Because it
yeah.
can't be coincidence. They keep putting these Chinese names to say this stuff.
I would say about 50% of these kinds of articles are written by white China watchers. Um, and then the other 50% are reserved for like Chinese Americans that they sort of trot out to like peddle out this like imperialist propaganda. Because you're right, there's a lot of stuff like the white China watchers will say it too, but if you have a Chinese American person saying so, you can like point to it and just be like, it's not racist because he's Chinese.
Speaking of the white China watchers, one of the real bad ones, even though we have no links to him today. One of the bad ones is Matt Stoller, and actually appeared on a Katie Halper show when we were wrapping up, and it was Matt Stoller was wrapping up before I came on, so I was in the wings, and then
Oh, really?
yeah, I realized, he was wrapping off. They sent him off, then they put me on. I realized, oh, wait a minute, isn't that the guy who's the you know, uh, China alarmist? And I was kind of
Yeah,
shocked that you can have a lot of respectability still while bashing China.
you
It's
can. I can't really follow a lot of what he says anymore because he blocked me a long time ago. But yeah, he's one of like the white China watchers that will say like really alarmist stuff. I remember he tweeted out last year something about like he was saying this really ridiculous thing about TikTok and how like the Chinese government was using TikTok as a mechanism to spy on Americans. So yeah, it's just like stuff like that all the time.
You know what's crazy though is a lot of people when Trump says things, he goes China, you know, that
Yeah.
China, all that stuff. They're alarmed about it, but a lot of liberals and leftists do their own version of that, you know. But
Yeah.
as long as you don't go as far as call something the China virus or use a slur, you know, it's okay. You know, it's a very
Yeah,
weird.
it's a little it's a racism that's like a bit more indirect and a bit more subtle, and it bothers me because a lot of people like the Asian American leaders, they'll focus on the really obvious stuff like Trump calling it the China
Yeah.
virus and stuff like that, like the really easy,
But I
like
would argue
blatant
this is
stuff.
not that much more subtle. Like saying that they caused the
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's a
Um,
narcissism of small differences. You know, like it,
yeah.
and they got to remember what's the Black China Caucus? I never even heard of this.
I don't know, it's the first time I've heard of it. Yeah,
That's really interesting. I have no idea what the
yeah,
Black China Caucus is.
yeah. So yeah, so this article is claiming that the CPC has sort of sided with the BLM protests from back in the summer as a way to deflect US criticisms of what it's doing, of its policies in Xinjiang right now. Um, and I guess we can talk about Xinjiang since it's been in the news recently. So basically, what it is, it's like this autonomous region in China, and the US government has accused China of like implementing a genocide. Like Mike Pompeo, before, like in the last few days of the Trump administration, he like actually accused China of committing genocide against the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. Um, and so like what happens, so it's this like sort of long, complicated history, but um, Xinjiang is home to like a large Uyghur population, and during the 90s and 2000s, there were a series of terrorist attacks in that region, conducted by the East Turkestan Islamic Party or East Turkestan Islamic Movement, and now that's what it was called. Now it's called like the Turkestan Islamic Party, I think. But it was this like terror, like Islamic jihadist group that had links to Al Qaeda, and they were a separatist movement that wanted to create their own state of East Turkestan. And so they conducted a series of terrorist attacks throughout the 90s and 2000s. And the Chinese government responded by, well, to them, like, you know, they're Marxist Leninists. So everything to them is economic, right? And so they thought that the solution would be was through economic development. So they like developed infrastructure, and they thought that like through developing them economically and creating jobs and like preparing them for these jobs, and people wouldn't like want to turn to terrorism. And so what the US has called like these concentration camps, they're like re-education centers that implement like this program of de-radicalization for Uyghurs. And what they do is they, teach them Mandarin. They're like basically schools. They teach them Mandarin, and they teach them like different skills so that they can like go out and get jobs. And these re-education centers or schools, that's what the US has been calling like concentration camps. So, I mean, I think for the most part, it's been like fairly successful. I don't think there's been a terrorist attack since 2017. But yeah, so this like program has sort of been like picked up by the US, and it's become part of this like propaganda campaign.
And which wing of U.S. politics is most incensed about this? Because I noticed some of these Chinese things that agitate the
Mhm,
U.S. There's like weird coalitions where you see a weird horseshoe, where even
mhm.
leftists and far right people will
Yeah,
both agree something. Yeah,
I would say this is one of those issues that sort of unites like everyone, like the right and the left. Like Mike Pompeo has, as I said, like called it a genocide. And then, a lot of leftists sort of unite behind it too. But the thing is that if you look at, like I said, like the East Turkestan Islamic movement, that has links to Al Qaeda. And then if you look at a lot of the NGOs that are affiliated with this movement, like the Uyghur Human Rights Project, that's one of them. If you look at their funding, you'll see that they get like hundreds of thousands of dollars, even more, from the National Endowment for Democracy, which we talked about like last time I was here. It's that grant that the CIA set up during the Reagan administration, when they were just like, they thought that their operations were too covert. And so they created this grant to give to like pro-democracy movements in different countries that are sort of amenable to US interests. So yeah, a lot of the NGOs affiliated with that movement received that funding from the NED.
is different. By the way, if at any time you want to address any comments going
Mhm.
on, by all means, feel not the
Yeah.
simping, not the simping ones. Well, if you, well, you're free to address the simping ones too. But
So okay, I just want to like make
yeah,
clear
hmm
that if you call something a genocide,
hmm
uh, that sort of paves the way for any sort of like US or international intervention, whether it be military or economic or sanctions. And also, if you call something a genocide, then it completely shuts down discussion. And you can't like be critical of it without like being accused of like a genocide denier, right? Or genocide denialism. And you can, and I'm not saying that like China is
um,
perfect.
real
You,
quick, is that addressing this? I want to make sure I have the right comments so people watching can know what you're addressing. Or
oh no, I wasn't addressing any of the comments.
okay,
Yeah, I was
okay,
just
continue.
saying that like you can make the case that China, you know, like the Uyghurs are subjected to a higher degree of surveillance, and like maybe there is mistreatment, but there is not there's not really evidence that suggests a genocide, or that this is like the next Holocaust, which is what a lot of people are saying that it is. And also a lot of the sources in these articles that talk about what's happening in Xinjiang, they can be traced to a guy named Adrian Zenz, who is the director of this organization called the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation. And he is this far-right Christian fundamentalist who is like, who believes it's his like God-given mission to destabilize China. So it's this like sort of thing that's going on in China right now, where the US sort of is like is using it as a way to destabilize the region.
So here's a question: are these people able to practice their culture or religion?
Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure. This is not like a defense of China or like China's policies. This is just like a critique of the way that the US media has kind of manipulated it to fit into its foreign policy agenda. But
Got
go
got
ahead.
you. Got you. Oh no, go on. Keep going.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm
Okay.
finished.
I was gonna say, yeah, because there were a lot of people on Twitter caught spreading photos and pictures that they were claiming were
Mm-hmm.
all types of stuff, and then people would correct them like, no, this is a dorm. This is not a, like there were different pieces of misinformation that people were just kind of shooting from the hip without even double checking. And
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Um, like it's hard to get information from that area, and the BBC released this article maybe like this week or this past week about Xinjiang, and it featured like testimonies of people who like were supposedly kept in those concentration camps. But like in that article, if you read it, it states itself that these accounts like aren't verified and they're impossible to verify, but they went ahead and like printed the stories anyway.
yeah. So what else has been happening? There was I had it up. Hold on. The COVID stuff has been pretty interesting because the U.S. hasn't been having much luck with their vaccine at all, and so lately we've been getting stuff where I guess they've been doing a better job of distributing the vaccine in
Mm-hmm.
China, and then they've been saying all this stuff to kind of make that into a bad thing, and I found this
Mm-hmm.
was really interesting. I'm going to put two of them up, and then I'm going to, for the rest of this, I'm going to hand it over to you to, be the one to steer the driver's seat. I think you
Mm-hmm.
remember how to do it from last time, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, these are the two I wanted to uh, show. And this is on your Twitter account. Everyone should follow her at Cat Content Only. But I like this one. MSNBC said China's COVID success story is also a human rights tragedy, but has that come at the cost of human rights? And then you proceed to contextualize it in your following tweets, but I'll give you a chance to, do that here.
Yeah. So I think so. What the US has done consistently for a year now is um, they like things are going pretty bad here. It's pretty obvious. But in order to deflect from what's going on here, they've used it as an opportunity to like undermine like China's response at every turn, right? So like um like you were mentioning earlier with the vaccines, like, you know, first they're using the vaccines as like soft diplomacy and as a way to manipulate global South countries to like do what China wants. And then, you know, then it's like they're not distributing the vaccines fast enough, or they're too good at distributing the vaccines.
Yeah, the
Um,
too good at distributing the vaccines has been a recurring one too.
yeah, yeah. And so, so, um, this has been a common one for the past year. China successfully sort of quashed its epidemic by implementing these really strict lockdown measures pretty early on. And so, like, because people locked down for like, you know, a few months, and the government, you know, sort of they pivoted different factories, um, like factories that were creating like this one product would pivot to making masks. Government workers would, you know, deliver food to people. They were able to like sort of quash the pandemic. And so for the most part, life in China has returned to a degree of normalcy. And like what the media has done for the past year has like sort of used this as a way of like undermining the Chinese government. You know, like they say like, you know, it's effective. The lockdown is effective, but you know, is it a violation of human rights? Is it a violation of the human right freedom of movement? And it's just like very indicative of this like very individualistic type of mindset that we're all used to. Like, you know, like you can't infringe upon my freedom of movement. I should be able to go wherever I want to go, whenever I want to. Like, I should have the freedom not to wear a mask. But you never like question, like, well, what about, you know, others, you know, other people around you and their freedom, like to not die, you know?
Yeah, and also check out while you're talking, this is another one that
Mhm.
I thought was good. It's not, it doesn't require you to change topics too much because it's still more of the same, but this is a serious headline. Has China done too well against COVID-19 from the New York Times? And
Yeah.
yeah, and that's a serious opinion article, which I love. It's like almost like an Onion article, except it's 100% real.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I just saw this headline, but I didn't read the op-ed. I would really be interested in like the case made for like how China did too well against COVID-19.
Yeah, you know, I didn't even read it in detail because there were so many examples. I was like, each one could be its own like half hour because I'm gonna put up even even more. There's even more weird ones.
Mhm.
This is one that I'm putting up all the COVID-19 ones, and then I'll pass it up to you. I thought there were two more, but there's actually more than two. But they're all about basically how COVID. Actually, they're all. Oh, this is it. This is it. This is the last one I'll show because they're gonna start getting repetitive after this. So I don't want to beat a dead horse. But this was another good one that somebody put up. That what was being described here is basically called, I believe, a test and trace, and they tried to make it sound extra nefarious because it was coming from China. So
Mhm. Oh, I saw this. I
basic,
saw this. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So basically, somebody posted this. It said the next time you hear that life is quote unquote back to normal in China because they quote unquote successfully pursued an elimination strategy with COVID-19, remember this reality check account of life in Beijing from DSO Rennie. And I'm not sure exactly what this guy's political affiliation is. He's
Uh-huh.
part of something called Unheard, but it's Herd is spelled HERD. So I don't know if that means like don't be a sheeple, like don't be part of the herd, like unheard yourself. I don't know, but that's already sounds yeah a little corny right there. So then what he describes is basically this. China's strategy from the start was to have no infections at all, uh, which I guess is horrible in this world. Still in Beijing, where we hardly have any cases, every time you step outside your door, you have to use a smartphone to scan a QR code. Every shop, every taxi, every bus, every metro station, you have no privacy at all, which is funny because that's the internet in general these days, even in America.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all built around this electronic system of contact tracing. To leave Beijing, you have to have a COVID test. To come back in, you have to have a COVID test. We basically don't have the virus here, but the flip side is they are keeping this place locked down as tight as a drum. Uh, it is very hard to know where COVID containment starts, and a communist police state with an obsession with control kicks in. A couple of things funny about this is America does this a lot. Like whenever I went someplace to eat during COVID, I had to scan something. We had the
Mm-hmm.
indoor protocols. I had to fill out my information so that if I got COVID or someone else got COVID, there was apparently some big database where everywhere I went got contacted, and then um, if if I got it, everyone who went to the same place would get contacted. If someone who went to the same place I went to got it, I would be contacted. Like these people really don't understand that this is and what it's called, and this is what this guy posted, Vincent Bevins. He goes, am I losing my mind, or is this just a description of a functional test and trace program? Which is what it is. It's called a test and trace program. They have it here all over the place, which is the
Yeah.
funniest thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so we have this idea of China as this like dystopian surveillance state that tracks your every move. But I just feel like that's another way of the US trying to deflect from its own actions, because we have like the largest, most sophisticated intelligence surveillance apparatus. Like we have uh, we have the NSA. So I just like feel that this is another thing, that another projection, like accusing China of something that the US itself does.
But this guy makes a great point because the US makes its deprivations of privacy and different things. They make it sound very opt-in, you know what I mean, when it's
Mm-hmm.
when it's really not, but
Mm-hmm.
and this guy said it great. He said uh we're told we have the rights to do everything, but only have the privilege to do much less, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny, like they track all types of things that you do to find a trace of COVID, and you're crazy if you think they don't. And some things they tell you about, they make you fill out things, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things where they bring up in the news that if you think for 10 seconds, you'll realize some monitoring had to happen for that to be known. Like, they say like COVID spikes went up in this area on people who ate at this place. Like, how do you think they know that?
Yeah.
They're tracing all this stuff. But the other thing is,
Yeah, I remember
Hmm?
I
Go ahead.
remember like a New York Times article from last year, and it was basically saying how like when COVID emerged, uh, a bunch of rich people from New York City sort of packed their bags and like left the city. And it mapped out all of like the different area codes in New York City and how many people had left. And you could see in like the wealthier area codes, how many people had left. And like in that article, it had stated that it had gotten all this data through tracking people's cell phones, and like using their location information. So I mean, we do stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, and there's a great book. This guy was a guest of the show, Yasha Levine. He has a book
Yeah.
called Surveillance Valley, and the what they do something different. What they do here, there's two books. There's one called Shoshana by a woman named Shoshana something. It's called Surveillance Capitalism, and it's all about how all the companies in that you buy from share and take all your information all the time and surveil everything. But the
Mhm.
second thing people don't know is even if you're not directly giving your information to the government subpoenas or not even subpoenas, but just asks, not even a court order, just says, "Hey, can we have this?" And Google and all these places just throw it at them. So Surveillance Valley by Yasha Levine talks about all the cases where things have been busted for Google, all the big names for just giving all your information. So if you think that any less surveillance of going on of everything you do, there's not some giant profile kept on everybody. That is exactly what. But on top of that, like this guy says, it's a simple test and trace. I'll hand it over to you now, so
Okay.
you can be in the driver's seat.
Okay. Um,
Yeah, but you see crazy stuff all the time while you're looking for something. I'm gonna say something real quick. I was talking to somebody about something, and then I went to Instagram, and the top thing on Instagram was the thing I was just talking about, but it wasn't something like
Time.
super vague. You know, it wasn't something like it was something very specialized. It was so specialized, and I was like, "Are they bugging the mic on my phone or something?" You know?
That happens all the time. One of the craziest the craziest times that happened, I was with a friend of mine, and we were talking about, it was something like really stupid, like Johnson and Johnson baby shampoo, and you know how they say like no tears. We were like arguing about whether that meant like no tears, like it's gentle enough where it doesn't make your eyes sting and make you cry. But he was saying it's no tears, like it's gentle on your hair, and it won't break your hair.
Oh, you're right,
So
by the way, but go on.
no, I think, well, whatever. But
Please say he didn't gaslight you out of your right answer, because you're right.
And so we were talking about this for a good 20 minutes. And then the next day, both of us got targeted ads for like Johnson and Johnson baby shampoo. And there's no way that,
Yeah. Oh, and
we
both
weren't.
of you. So it's on both sides of the conversation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
baby shampoo. Babies don't have that much hair. Why would a baby care about tears in the hair? I think,
because
yeah.
he has a toddler, and he was saying that he
The
was
toddler has a silky mane.
he was saying
Yeah.
his toddler like cries when it gets into his eyes. Um,
Someone said that's a weed convo.
yeah,
But
totally was.
somebody in the comments said this: I am a contact tracer for New York State. I work in a giant database full of people every day. These aren't even cases of COVID, just their contacts. Yeah, totally. Uh, there used to be these Johnson and Johnson's baby commercials where they had the baby getting its head shampooed, right? And
Mhm.
the water be going in the baby's face, and they'd be like, "No more tears," and the baby just be like, "Oh, happy." So apparently, it's not good advertising. That wasn't happening to your friend, but I just want to confirm that you're right.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
Okay.
I still
Can
want
you
to know how that started, though. That's funny. Oh,
but
okay, I got to add it to the
it was
stream.
a
There we go.
total weed convo, so whoever said that, you're 100%
Oh my
correct.
God, you're a night mode person, so that means you eat babies. I have a strong
I
belief
don't
in
know
that.
how anyone cannot, like, scroll on night mode. It hurts your eyes so much, the white. Okay, so when I was here last time, we talked a whole lot about the like sort of nefarious funding that different think tanks get. And like what it basically said was, like these think tanks will write these policy papers, these anti-China policy papers, and then the papers themselves will get quoted in like an anti-China article in the New York Times, or like someone from that think tank will themselves be quoted in this article. And like what we discussed last time was that a lot of these think tanks get funding from like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, Facebook, Rupert Murdoch, Bank of America, so on and so forth. And I also mentioned that like there's also like a revolving door between these think tanks and these like weapons manufacturers like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, and then the government itself, right? And one example of that is Lloyd Austin, who like Biden appointed as the head of the Pentagon. And there was a lot of praise for that appointment because he is the first Black man to head the Pentagon, but he's also on the board of Raytheon, which is a weapons contractor. So a couple weeks ago, Hudson Institute was one of these think tanks that we talked about when I was on a couple weeks ago. And they're funded by the same like 20 groups, weapons contractors like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. So during like one of the final days of Mike Pompeo being Secretary of State, I think, he announced that he would be joining Hudson Institute. So this is like another example of how like just this revolving door, like between, neocon think tanks that are in the business of trying to like sell like war and weapons, and then the government itself.
Yeah, and someone put some interesting stuff just to go back to some of the other stuff. Target can predict when women are pregnant just from their purchases, which Surveillance Valley talks about that. They caught the Golden State Killer, by getting DNA test of his distant cousin. They do all types of stuff. They keep track of so many things, and people are very, very deluded if they think otherwise. Also, what about that video? There was a cool video that we were looking at. That might be cool thing to share as well.
Yeah, let's watch it.
Yeah, and as usual, feel free to look at the comments in the side if there's anything you feel like answering to.
Okay. Okay. I didn't see that there was a comments tab. I clicked it now.
Oh, you missed it all this time. Okay.
I missed it all this time. I was on the private chat tab.
So something I said in the private chat's not going to make sense unless you see the comments. Yeah. So you missed the early simping comments. Yeah, because in the beginning.
No. Oh yeah, I totally missed those.
Okay. Now they're all serious. The early comments were simping, but now it's all business. There you go.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was saying, well, he was saying when he first got out of college, he went to he interviewed with Lockheed Martin, I think, and he doesn't like have those types of politics anymore, but he interviewed just for like an office position with Lockheed Martin, And the interviewer was like, "Are you interested in working for the government?" And he was like, well, not really, but like, why are you asking me that? Because like, I wouldn't be working for the government. I'd be working for Lockheed Martin.
Oh,
And the interviewer was like, oh, it's the same thing. So it's like, it's like kind of an open secret in DC that those like corporations are, basically another branch of government.
yeah, kind of like Goldman Sachs. People kind of realize it's just an unofficial cabinet cabinet department. It's the
Exactly.
same. Yeah, yeah. But I feel like more people know about the Goldman Sachs stuff than know about the Lockheed Martin and Raytheon
Yeah.
stuff for sure.
Yeah. Like so much of we call them like weapons manufacturers, weapons contractors, but producing weapons is like I think a relatively small part of their business. They also contract the government to do like systems integration, as well as intelligence analysis. So they like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman too, I think. They do like HR stuff and operations stuff, as well as like analyzing all of the intelligence that they get. And uh, like very little of intelligence analysis is done by government employees anymore. Um,
But you know what, Amanda,
yeah.
this is something that you put up. Amanda put this up as a sign of hope and of good things to come. She was showing her neoliberal side, where you posted this today. Maria Silla Dixon was
Oh my
announced as
God.
the chief diversity officer for Raytheon Tech. She reports directly into CEO Gregory Hayes and is responsible for advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion across the globe. Learn more. So they can't be that bad. They have a black woman there, and she's in charge of diversity. So there's going to be different color skin and genders and everything and sexual orientations pushing the drone buttons. So
Yeah, yeah. This is like another way that they deflect from, their war profiteering. Um, yeah, yeah. It's like that meme. Have you ever seen the one where
they're dropping the drones.
they're dropping the drones and one of them's like, "Oh, I'm so glad like whoever's dropping these drones is a woman now," or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank goodness these are democratic bombs.
yeah,
These are
it's like
democratic
this
drones.
meme come to life. It's so bleak. It's so
Yeah,
bleak.
and your actual comment was, "I just became the Joker." Just in case
Yeah,
somebody really believes that you liked it. No, she did not share it in a
yeah.
positive in a
I
positive
actually
way.
don't know I've never seen that movie, so I don't actually know what it means to become the Joker,
Um,
but I kind of like have an idea.
uh, just watch Taxi Driver and King of Comedy by Martin Scorsese, and you've basically seen the movie, just better done. So yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend. Oh, here's the last thing. As usual, there's just so much of the stuff we can only get a fraction of it, but we have to talk about this one. Uh, hold on a second. We have to talk about this one. Is this it? I think this is it. I want to make sure I have the right tab. I always have like 500 tabs open at once. Ah, yes, on the first try.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. We have to watch this video.
Yes, yes, this is what we should end on and discuss it.
Yeah, so this is a parody video that a bunch of Chinese netizens created, and it's basically like this guy submitting a video to BBC to become a BBC journalist.
Yeah,
It's satire.
and he wants to be a correspondent on a China beat, right? So he's trying to show that he can cover it the way that they do. So here we go. Let me know if you can hear it.
尊敬的各位女士们、先生们，大家好，我叫大漠，我现在正式应聘 BBC 新闻记者。我有一定的制造新闻能力，遵循先有结果后有证据的原则。下面的视频给大家展现一下我的新闻能力。来，戴口罩好像。不是这个机会，低一点点，对，低一点点，然后斜，对，有自然呼吸感。显得突然问他的，不要放太多。
Hold on, I'm actually gonna start it over because I didn't realize I had that stupid caption.
这个我知道了。尊敬的各位女士们、先生们，大家好，我叫大漠，我现在正式应聘 BBC 新闻记者。我有一定的制造新闻能力，遵循先有结果后有证据的原则。下面的视频给大家展现一下我的新闻能力。来，戴口罩好像。不是这个机会，低一点点，对，低一点点，然后斜，对，有自然呼吸感，显得突然问他的，不要放太多，有一点点就行了啊。好了，我问他 ，What's your name？ 这个我知道啊，我们站远远的，然后把焦拉近一点，显得在偷拍的感觉，把镜头拿斜一点，然后抖起来，就是这个氛围。哦，这种垃圾堆最好。哦，有感觉。哦，这个好。来，我教你。我问什么你就讲1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8、9就可以了。好，来这里。
Oh, I don't think people can see the subtitles.
Oh, people can't see the subtitles?
Yeah, because it's of the.
Oh, I got that stupid thing at the bottom. That's why. You see that thing I have in the bottom?
Yeah.
Thank you for telling me. Let me fix that. I got that. I have the shield scroll on the bottom. So let me take that off. Sorry, y'all. One last time. Okay. We're going to try this one last time. And here we go. The subtitles should be clear now. I'll keep an eye on the chat and let's see if.
尊敬的各位女士们、先生们，大家好，我叫大漠，我现在正式应聘 BBC 新闻记者。我有一定的制造新闻能力，遵循先有结果后有证据的原则。下面的视频给大家展现一下我的新闻能力。来，戴口罩好像。不是这个机会，低一点点，对，低一点点，然后斜，对，有自然呼吸感。显得突然问他的，不要放太多，有一点点就行了啊。好了，我问他 ，What's your name？ 这个我知道啊，我们站远远的，然后把焦拉近一点，
It's always
显得在
never eye level. Just
镜头拿斜一点
At that weird angle, right?
yeah, and it's always shaky.
就是这个氛围。
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to know what their actual videos look like to really appreciate this.
来，我教你。
Yeah.
我问什么你就讲1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8、9就可以了。
Okay, you can only answer 1, 2, 3.
好，我们在市场营造一个那种堵车的那种。
Yeah, and always footage of traffic jams to
好，我们现在借助视频的后期给它营造一种一键的效果。制作方法也非常简单。首先呢，让它的光源在曝光度这里。
They always do the same thing with Haiti. When they cover Haiti, they always put like the poorest part and then people drinking out of like, you know.
Yeah. And have you ever seen? There's been a lot of like critiques of, like CIA shows that are set in the Middle East, and they've got like that like super like kind of washed out or like hand coloring to them.
And they do it in the movies too.
Yeah, they do it in shows and movies. Yeah.
In this country, ordinary people will not be eligible for nucleic acids testing. They're all fleeing.
Yeah, the traffic jam is always a traffic jam to remind you that they can't stop reproducing.
Without having to
Got to make sure that's known.
5 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 1 2 3 是吧1 2 3
Yeah, every country they have some format. Like for example, with India, it's always something with like dirtiness, like somebody like peeing in the Ganges. Like no matter what the story is about, they try to have like the slumdog type of thing.
Yeah.
Even the movie Slumdog Millionaire, the part that he falls into an outhouse gets covered by crap. I don't know why. With India, it's always about like bodily fluids and feces. But with China, it's always about traffic jams and sometimes there's chickens running around, which I think this guy put.
What's really popular also is like the cameraman going to a place that's restricted or closed off, and then footage of a policeman demanding ID, and that's just because like it's a police state.
Yes, they did. This guy hit all the tropes. You know, these extreme close-ups because infectious waste. There you go. But you can find a sign that says infectious waste anywhere. Yeah.
Flies, garbage.
Yeah. Everyone knows flies and garbage are unique to China.
一天去采集新闻，但愿我能顺利的加入团队，希望你们不要不识好歹。
Yeah, that was an epic parody, especially if you have seen the BBC videos in question. And the funny thing is, BBC is something that's thought of as liberal. You know, like people think Fox News has a monopoly on weird propaganda, but it really doesn't. It's one thing that's weird about the whole China thing is I feel like people don't know if they're mad at it because it's too good at socialism/communism or because it's too good at capitalism. Like China has a very weird position where it's kind of hated in America for two things.
Mm-hmm.
Being socialist and being capitalist.
Yeah. I mean, it's an emerging economic superpower, and you know, the U.S. empire, like the sun is setting on the U.S. empire, but it doesn't really want to like let it go. And so I think that's where a lot of it stems from. And also like what we talked about last week, there are just like a bunch of companies that, you know, make money from this kind of propaganda, this kind of like war profiteering. You know, there's always money to be made in creating this like situation where there's like a constant external threat, right? So if there's a constant external threat, then these companies can sort of lobby Congress to, you know, like put more money into the defense budget. And then like that will in turn end up with more government contracts for these corporations like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon. Because if you create like those situations, you'll always have reasons for intelligence analysis, right? For surveillance, for spying.
The comments are great right now. People are making
I had to switch the tab because there was just way too much going on.
Oh, way too much? Oh, yeah. Your brain's not like addled by ADHD like mine is now from doing this for so long.
There's like, I don't know how you do this. There are like so many comments, and then there are like 4 different screens.
Oh, God. Yeah. This just ruins your brain. It used to overwhelm me now. Some of the people who have like 10 times the amount of, like I went on Katie Halper's show and she has like way more. Her thing is like
does she use like Periscope or Twitch? Like what does she use?
She uses this. She has a YouTube thing. I don't know if she has a Twitch too, but she also has people who just do nothing but I guess, you know, manage the comments and then, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't want to keep you on too long because I'd rather have you come back often than tire you out and then you don't ever want to come back again. So last time we kept you for like 2.5 hours. I'd rather an hour.
No, like I'll come back anytime. Last time that was like pushing on 3 hours and I was like, Oh God, this is the longest I've ever spoken in a long time.
Yeah. Well, you know what happens? One thing, I don't know if there's an official law to it, but the law of streaming, I noticed every additional person adds on like at least 45 minutes to an hour.
That's
So
true.
as soon as Vita came on, like I knew that I was just gonna open up another time. So we actually wrapped it up the first time. Then Vita came on, and I was like, okay, I can't just have her come on and then be like, you know, like when somebody shows up to a party and everyone's like, okay, party's over. I couldn't pull. Yeah. But
yeah.
Going forward, you know, we're gonna try to keep it to an hour like this. Yeah.
Oh man, we didn't even get to I sort of wanted to.
If you want to throw one more thing in, I think we still have some time. Could we? Throw it in.
Okay.
I'll put your screen back on.
Okay. What should we?
Yeah, we have so much. There's so much to choose from. Give me a second. I'm just gonna plug in my computer, but I can hear you. Keep going.
Okay. All right. Is my screen showing?
I have to add it.
Oh, okay.
There we go. And let me take the thing. Somebody was joking that the Chinese guy in the clip was telling people to subscribe to Champagne Sharks because that ticker was going over the subtitles. We have a lot of comedians in the audience. Yeah, so your screen is up. Is there sound to it or no? What needs to be?
There's no sound.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna stop because it was only sharing my tab, but I want to share a different tab.
Oh, okay, yeah. You have to stop and restart to switch tabs. I'm telling you, you should compile these somewhere, even if it's like a newsletter or something, because you always compile so many good ones. And it's crazy. Once you keep your eye out for it, like once you get hip to it, you can't stop noticing it. Because I start sending them to you all the time. I'm not even looking for them.
I'm wondering if we should switch. Okay, let's do this. Share.
Oh, I have to add it to the screen. Duh.
Okay, hold on a sec. Sorry.
Oh, it disappeared again.
My entire screen.
You're having a boomer moment, Amanda. You can't do this.
I know. I feel like I'm 90 years old right now. I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay. No. What's the difference between sharing my entire screen and sharing the application window?
Oh, don't do that. Okay, this is what you do.
What if I want to share like multiple tabs?
Okay, if you want to share multiple tabs, unfortunately, you have to stop it each time. So there should be an option entire screen. Oh wait, entire screen you can do. Just make sure you don't have any crazy tabs like tentacle porn or something, because people are gonna see all of it. Like that guy. Who was the guy that got Kurt Eichenwald? He shared. So if you do Chrome tab, you have to do one tab, then stop. If you do entire screen, then it'll show everything. But just so you know, if you have anything crazy in the tabs, people will see.
I think my privacy settings are set that I can't.
Share the Chrome tab.
Yeah.
Or
share my entire screen.
Yeah, I think entire screen will work because it doesn't have to connect directly to your Chrome.
Wait,
browser.
I have an idea. Why don't you pull it up on your computer?
Sure.
I'll highlight the links to open for you in the doc.
Oh, someone said, why tentacle porn? Because that was something. No, I'm not trying to imply that she's extra lucky to have tentacle porn. There was a famous case of a guy, Kurt Eichenwald, the journalist, who tried to share a tab, and then he had tentacle porn on the side. And to this day, he's known as the tentacle porn. So I'm not profiling. No, it's a very specific joke, inside joke. Okay, so yeah, send it to me via DM, and then I think it's probably the easiest way.
Are you in the doc, in the Google Doc?
Oh, it's in the Google Doc.
Yeah. I highlighted it in the Google Doc.
Now I'm having a boomer moment. Okay, I found it. So there's 2, right?
No. So yeah, you're there right now.
Okay, cool. So China gives unproven COVID-19 vaccine to thousands. That one?
Yeah, they're like the 4. So there are 2 New York Times articles, an NPR article, and a Reuters article.
Okay, cool. I got it. I see it all. I'm going to open them all first, and then we'll go through them rapid fire. See, I'm too used to inside Twitter jokes, so I forget not everybody knows the jokes.
Because everyone's I missed the tentacle porn one.
Oh, you didn't see? Oh, that was a funny one. Yeah,
I remember like a few weeks ago, a guy was on a Zoom call and he didn't realize his camera was on, and he was like masturbating, like jerking off, like during a meeting.
Yeah, but you know what's great about that one? He didn't get fired right away. There was an investigation period, and I'm like, that is just white male privilege right there. Like the fact that it even took like a week, like how does that even happen? Like, what did they have to investigate? Like what kind of lotion he was using? Like, I don't understand. It was right on camera.
Yeah. Okay. So let's save this one for last, and then let's look at the other 3 first.
Sure.
So when
I'll start with I'll start with one of the New York Times ones then.
Okay. Yeah. So when I, was thinking about what we would talk about when I would come back on, I thought a really good thing to talk about would be the way that the things that China does and the way that that's portrayed in the media versus how the same thing that the US does is portrayed. And there are like a ton of examples, but so when China does something, it's always like super sensationalized. And a few months ago, there was a lot of coverage of China giving what they called unproven vaccines to like their frontline workers.
Hold on 1 second. I'll keep talking, but for some reason it's asking me to log in. I thought I was already safe. Yeah, so keep talking, and then I'll put the thing will be turned on screen once I log in.
Yeah. So what China was doing was they were giving like nurses and doctors and frontline workers vaccines, even though they hadn't gone through finished late stage trials. And so the way that media sources like NPR and the New York Times covered it was in this really sensationalized way. Like China gives unproven COVID-19 vaccines to thousands with risks unknown. And it was framed as just really reckless and a really dangerous thing to do. And they interviewed all of these experts who said it was a terrible idea because you don't know the potential side effects. So this was, I want to say, back in September. And, the New York Times covered it, and then T, if you like move to the other New York Times tab and then the NPR tab just to like show the headlines.
Sure, no problem. Hopefully I picked the right one. This is, I think, the second one. Also, someone's giving context to the tentacle porn thing. So after you're done, we're gonna end on the extra context. I forgot some extra context. Oh, why is it? This is annoying. Hold on, let me refresh it again. I'm gonna have to refresh this page and it should disappear. Okay, there we go.
Okay, yeah. Vaccine unproven, no problem in China where people scramble for shots. Yeah, and then it says many say that they are reassured because politicians and executives have been inoculated, but experts say the risks outweigh the benefits. And then if you want to move to the NPR tab, the NPR article. Yeah.
Cool, no problem. And then this should be it. Okay, here we go. China is vaccinating thousands against COVID with unapproved COVID-19 vaccines.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, and this is a great example of showing, how it's not just a right-wing thing, because we had right-wing examples were unheard, but NPR is considered like super liberal.
Super liberal. They kept calling these unapproved COVID-19 vaccines. But what happened like a month later? And if you want to like move to the final tab, it's the Reuters.
So this is the one that's going to show us the contrast between how it gets covered. Okay, hold on. Yeah, so with this, when I'm pulling this up, I'm going to go plug this in real quick. So just give me a second. I will disappear for the screen for a hot second while you put up the NPR thing. I'm sorry. The last one is from
Reuters. It should be from Reuters. It's Reuters or AP. Okay. I forget. Yeah, Reuters.
Got it. It's going to pop up right now. And then I'll put it. Let me scroll it down.
Yeah. So all of those articles talking about China inoculating with this or inoculating frontline workers with like this unapproved vaccine, those were, I think, in November.
And it's basically the same thing. So basically, this is an unapproved vaccine, but now it's a sign of diligence. Like we care so much, we can't waste time approving it.
Yeah.
As opposed to the recklessness. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That like shows contrast in the way that like something in China does, if China does it, it's like a reckless decision. It's dangerous. You don't know the potential like side effects, what could happen. Whereas like if the US does it, it's like something of calculated risk, right? And it's emergency use, which is like, so there's like unapproved vaccines when China does it, whereas like in the US, it's emergency use and like you don't really have a choice. It's for the common good. But yeah, it's exactly the same scenario. They're both, in both cases, they're both technically like unapproved vaccines. And like they, hadn't completed like late stage trials. But in both cases, they were approved for like emergency use because of like what was going on.
Yeah, and this is a very good example because it's so stark. It's so different. And so last thing before we leave, thank you for that. I'm glad we got to that's actually a good one to end on. Thank you for that. But for people who don't know, this is something you can read real quick. I forgot the funniest part about this story. I don't think I shared it, but this is the guy, and the guy is known for a bunch of creepy stuff and weird, horrible. He was one of those Hillary men who was in 2016 always slamming Bernie Bros and doing all this weird stuff to cape for Hillary. But he was also like really creepy, and he had some kind of weird thing, a scandal where he paid I think some person in some kind of pedophilia case. Like, he violated some kind of ethical rule to interview somebody in a way that was very unethical. But he still managed to maintain a career. But I forgot this part. When he was busted, he said he was looking at it for his family.
Yeah, see, that's what happens. Like, when you get busted for it, you have to make some like really stupid excuse.
Yeah, and to his credit, he never. To his credit, he didn't delete the tweet. But he had this tweet about bad anti-Semitic Photoshop, and then one of these tabs was tentacle porn, and he left it up, and he was getting owned all day. And apparently, it's not even just hardcore. It's not just hentai. It's like very hardcore hentai. Like, this is something called Bichiku, which is supposed to be hardcore even for like hentai tentacle porn. So then, what I love is how exasperated he looks. Like, this is his follow-up. Sigh. Okay, I'm a dumbass, but believe it or not, my kids and I were trying to convince my wife that tentacle porn existed. I tried to show her it was real, but I couldn't find any, and ended up with this. My family. So actually, he said he was looking for tentacle porn. This is actually supposed to be worse than tentacle porn. And he tried to say, "Oh, I was looking for tentacle porn, but I couldn't find it. So I found this worse thing than tentacle porn, but it was by accident." So for people are wondering, that's where the joke comes from. But thanks, Amanda. Glad you came out, and love for you to come back again soon. Definitely come back soon. And everybody, follow Amanda at Twitter at Cat Content Only. But is there any other thing you want people to know before they go?
I don't think so. Yeah, if you want to follow me, yeah. If you don't want to, that's totally fine too.
No, you have to follow her. There's no choice about it. And you get more funny takes. Yeah, you have a lot of good funny takes on there. So everyone, take care. Amanda, take care. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye, everyone.